The Isle in the Silver Sea by Tasha Suri. This is the first Tasha Suri book that I've read, not the first one that I've owned. Like 2 years ago, I bought the first installment in her Jasmine Throne trilogy, which I think is called The Jasmine Throne. No, the first book is called The Jasmine Throne, and the series is called The Burning Kingdoms trilogy. I've heard nothing but abundant praise for that book, and so I'm saving it. I'm saving it for when I'm really in the mood for a fantastic fantasy series, because I know that one's gonna hit. It's also sapphic. I'm sure you've heard about it, you've probably read it. I too will read it someday, but today we read this instead, because my library got it, and I fucking fought to get this hold. I clicked that notification immediately so that I was the first person at my library to get this book. It just came out, it's a new release, and it's good. It makes me excited to go back and read her last trilogy. I won't get into a lot of spoilers for this because it is a very long book. It feels very long. It's pretty slow paced. I don't think that's a fault. I think that's the style. I think if you're into that sort of long-winded, slower-paced, immense fairy tale scope of a fantasy novel, this will really hit the mark. I prefer stories that are a bit tighter and more compact, but I don't think that this was untight, loose, dry. This does a lot, but it does all of it well, and there's a lot that comes back, and I know that there's actually so much detail in this that I definitely missed little things. There's a lot of minor characters who end up coming back. Sometimes you forget someone's name, or sometimes you forget like little details, but everything does come back, and it is very well structured and well thought out, and all of these characters are treated well, and the plot's treated well. I think it's a very well crafted novel. I think the author can handle the scope and did handle it correctly. I just prefer things that are a little bit shorter. So this is probably a 5-star book, objectively. I gave it 4 stars for like personal enjoyment. Not my favorite book of all time, still really enjoyed it. There's a lot here. Not only is it really good fantasy with a really interesting world that I haven't seen before, it has a lot of deeper themes. There's a lot here about colonialism, monarchy, class, race. This is a very deep book. It's actually saying something, and it's very smart about what it's saying, and it's saying it very well. So I'll give you a little setup of this book so that you can decide if you want to read it. I do recommend it, if you're into fantasy. I think the world building and the mechanics of this world are what really make it stand out and what make it super interesting. We're in England. It's called the Isle for most of the book, but we're literally in England, and like the time's kind of weird. Like there's literally Buckingham Palace and like Westminster, and India gets named by name, and I think they also use the word trans at some point to refer to the trans guy. So there's like some weird modern language, not really. There's only a couple instances of that, but this is very much our world, but also definitely not our world. There's magic, there's witches, there's fae, and the entire island of England is actually run by stories, fairy tales. So all of the stories of the Isle get repeated forever and ever. The people involved in them die and are reincarnated, and they are destined to live out their tale again and again and again over every single lifetime, and this literally keeps the country going. If one of these reincarnates dies early, or their story gets messed up somehow, like part of Britain like literally disappears. The continuation of these stories is the backbone of this country. It needs it to survive. Therefore, the queen, who is an eternal queen who cannot die, is very much concerned with keeping all of these stories going, finding all of the reincarnates. They have magical ways to do that, and keeping them safe and making sure that they enact their tale, whether they want to or not. And a lot of them don't want to, because predestination's kind of a funky thing, and a lot of these people don't feel in control of their lives. A lot of these people know they're going to die early. But there's a sense of nationalism in instilling these people to live out their tales and do what they have to do for the sake of the country. And this book opens on the tale of the witch and the knight, who are our main characters. And this is a story where the knight has been tasked to kill the witch. They fall in love, but eventually the knight slays the witch in a murder-suicide. And these people have been reincarnated over and over and over. In this life, we have 2 women who are the knight and the witch. They know they're the knight and the witch because they've been tested, or they also see visions of their past lives. The ghosts of the previous knights and the previous witches sort of haunt them. sort of guide them, and they have an innate draw to their tale. They are compelled to be in certain places at certain times, and to act certain ways and to feel certain way about certain people. They cannot deny the nature of their tale. And these two characters are very interesting, and they're definitely the backbone of the story for me and the story as a whole. But I really liked them, and they, like, as devices, say a lot about class and upbringing and privilege and exceptions and a lot of interesting things going on here deeper beneath the surface, even though it's kind of also on the surface. Whatever. So Simran is the witch, and she's elsewhere born. She's from India. They call it elsewhere, but also India is literally name dropped. And surprise, people are racist. There's a lot of people who look down upon the elsewhere people, and the elsewhere people coming to the Isle sort of defiles the natural history of the Isle. And we learn that the people from elsewhere have their own folk tales, and that sort of is corrupting parts of the Isle, or so some people think. And those things are outlawed. We get a lot of, like, propaganda pieces. Like, every chapter starts with a note or a letter or a book, and then, like, an official ruling on, like, is this text outlawed? Is this being held for evidence against treason? Things like that. There's lots of interesting things going on there. Those are all really short and just interesting. And our knight is a woman named Veena, who is half elsewhere. Her mother was an elsewhere woman, but she is the bastard daughter of an elsewhere woman and then a parliamentary figure. Her father works in the government, magistrate. I don't know how England works. So she's mixed race, but she's grown up with a certain amount of privilege, and she's grown up on the Isle, and she's been raised to really revere the Isle, and she's been under the Queen's thumb since she was very young. Because her father is connected to the Queen, works here in London, the Queen has known that she is the knight from a young age, and so she has been taught that this is her duty to reenact this fairy tale. And she also kind of has some privileges that other people don't. She's kind of a cheeky knight. She sneaks off, she does things she's not supposed to, she can kind of backtalk people, and she knows that they can't do anything to her, because the Queen needs her alive to do this tale, or else the country literally fucking dies. And so she's kind of brazen and openly queer. I think that's also a thing that is sort of taboo in the society. We see a few queer people. Again, we see a trans guy. He ends up getting a husband. And someone does comment on the morality of the knight and the witch tale in this life cycle and how it's a bit funky. And they make a passing gesture on, well, you're incarnate, so you can kind of get away with the lesbianism. Isn't fate so funny? What a coincidence of the universe. Oh well. You don't have to adhere to the rules of us normal folk, I guess. But Veena's relationship to race and class is interesting, and she was named Veena by her mother, but her father calls her Lavinia, which is a more anglicized name. There's a lot going on there, if you're into that, and it is done really well. And again, this is a long book, and there's a lot going on, but the initial conflict is that there is a man going around killing incarnates. And again, this is bad because it will destroy the Isle. However, you get an immediate sense that this is not a mustache-twirling evil villain. This dude kind of has a point, like, if you think about it. These reincarnates are being used as pawns, basically, in this Queen's game. They have no choice in the matter. They have no personal freedom. They're sort of haunted by this. Their life is totally dictated by this. And literally the only way to end the cycle is to be killed. And some of these reincarnates are choosing to be killed. They want out of this. And you also have to question the Queen and the monarchy and the history of that and the control she has. And her motivations are rather selfish. And so you're not really supposed to be on the Queen's side. Like, the murdering is a bit extreme, but you get a sense that this dude has a reason. This dude has a story, and he does have a story. But initially, our main characters see this as a threat. They have incarnate friends who are dying or have been killed or are in danger of being killed. And the book starts with the knight and the witch meeting pretty early on, and they kind of recognize each other. They don't want to do this. They don't want to kill each other and reenact this, and so they kind of like try to keep a distance, but it's fated. They end up having to go on this quest together to track down this serial killer. And that's where I'll stop with the plot, even though that's like the first 30% of the book or something. It's a long book. But I don't want to spoil anything because it's good, and also we'll be here for like 5 fucking hours. I did like this. I liked the characters. There's a cute cat. There's even some of the side characters get more depth than you think they're going to at first. I like this romance. I think these two characters have chemistry. I like the gimmick that they're preternaturally, predestinedly drawn to each other. They can't help their attraction, even when they're trying to not be attracted to each other necessarily. I like their solutions to things. I like the way this talks about stories and how stories can be rewritten and how narratives can be controlled for better or worse. I like the themes of agency. I like the themes of different types of magic and different cultures and different stories between cultures. This has a lot of depth. You could really reread this like a few times and like really pick into the details and like get all of the little callbacks, all of the little references, all of the little inferences. You could do more in this world. You could think about what other countries are like. There's a lot here. If you're a person who really wants a fantasy novel that you can really sit inside of and really unpack and really think about the world building and all of the characters that could be involved, all of the stories that could be involved. I think I did recognize a couple of these folk tales, but some of them might have been made up for the book, or maybe I'm just not English. There's just a lot of depth here. There's a lot of meat. This is a good fantasy novel. If you like fantasy, traditional fantasy with magic and knights and fae and creatures and familiars and all that good stuff. There's dragons, there's a wyvern. Is there a dragon? There's a wyvern. There's beasts, shapeshifters, different types of magic is cool. It's really classic fantasy, and it's sapphic, and it has something to say about society at large. Just a really fucking solid fantasy novel, if you're into that. Again, I prefer something a bit smaller scoped. But this was still like a 4-star for me. Maybe even more than that, like a 4.5 even. I really enjoyed it, even though I'm not like the biggest fantasy fan. I read a lot of fantasy, but I wouldn't say it's like my absolute favorite genre, this type of fantasy. But this was great, and I want to read more Tasha Suri, who I've heard nothing but good things about. I've literally never heard a bad review of any of her books. And I think I'll like the Jasmine Throne even more than this, because I've heard a lot of good things about those characters, even though it'll technically be longer because it's 3 books. And actually, I don't know how long those books are. They're probably long because they're fantasy novels. But like, if they're good, I'm fine with that. And again, I didn't hate this for being long. I liked the book. It just wasn't my ideal perfect 5-star read, personally. But it will be for a lot of people. A lot of people really like this kind of length and this kind of meat and this kind of pacing. But yeah, let me know if you read this one. Let me know if I need to bump the Jasmine Throne up on my TBR, because it's been on there for years. I own the first book. I bought the ebook like 2 years ago. I should get around to reading that. And the 3rd book just came out this year? It came out recently, and so the trilogy is complete. I don't have that as a reason to not read it anymore, because I was kind of waiting for all 3 to come out. Because again, with fantasy, I like to read the whole series all at once. That way I can digest it and not forget anything. I do like that this book, The Isle in the Silver Sea, was a standalone. I'm pretty sure there won't be any sequels to this. You could do another book set in the same world with different characters, because again, this idea of stories is really good, and like that's a really solid foundational world building setting for a series of fantasy novels. But I don't know if this author's interested in doing that. But anyway, this is a good book. You should read it. Have you read it? Did you like it? What am I missing? Whatever. Good night.